I will be the first to admit that I deeply love romance. I love reading it in manga, but I will also admit that I really love reading about great, fantastic friendships in fiction, and that is what we are going to talk about today. Hello friends, happy Wednesday. So very excited that you're here. It is a new month, which means it's a new month of prompts for Top 5 Wednesday, and we're going to be kicking off with our first one. But in case if you're not familiar with Top 5 Wednesday, in a nutshell, basically each week I answer a prompt using 5 books, but in this case I do manga to reflect the said prompt. And today's prompt is Platonic Friendships in Fiction. Again, romance is absolutely amazing, but the other day somebody had said friendship is worth celebrating, and I was like, yes. So I'm going to talk about some of my favorite, I'm going to say non-romantic, but then also, non-romantic friendships in fiction. And I just had so much fun with this prompt. In fact, I had a list originally written, and then I was like, you know what, let's go look at my bookshelf. And I looked at my bookshelf, and then I started picking different titles, and then I started reading those titles, and I'm like, okay, an hour later, here we are filming this video. Let's go ahead and jump right in, starting in I guess no certain order. For number 1, I am going to be choosing characters from Loving Yamada at level 999. The anime recently aired this past Saturday, and it was perfection. I am deeply excited for the second episode. It was such a faithful manga adaptation, and if you're curious about my thoughts on the manga, I do have a non-spoiler review here if you'd like to check it out. So the characters I'm going to feature, or talk about the friendship, I guess, is Akane, and I think it's Eita. I think that's how you say his name. Oh my goodness, I love their friendship so much in this manga. He's actually one of my favorite characters. He is so sweet, and just the way that he supports Akane and encourages her, how he listens to her, and really just does everything he can to put a smile on her face and be there for her. Sometimes he gives advice that's probably not the best advice, but he really, when he's talking to her and he's giving that advice, he means it from the best of places, because he honestly just wants the best for her. He feels that she is such a bright and sunny person, and I 100% agree. Like, her personality is amazing, her character is amazing, and that's part of the joy of the manga and the anime, especially with her expressions. We have not seen him yet in the first episode, but I am so excited to see him in the anime as well, because he just has so many flowers bouncing off of him. And Akane, I think the way too that she respects his opinion and how she listens to him as well, despite that there is a very interesting misunderstanding that happens when they actually first meet. But I love their friendship. I think it's very healthy. I think it's very awesome that despite that their genders are different, that they don't have any kind of romance whatsoever, which is probably a good thing, because we all love Yamada, and Yamada is absolutely amazing as well. For number 2, I was like, yes, I have not talked about this manga in such a long time, and that is Haikyuu. And I am going to feature Hinata and Yachi, because I love Yachi. Let me see if I can find a really good panel of her. Here she is in all of her cuteness. I love her, Miss Villager Bee, and I was rereading this volume, and it's just, Hinata is so great. Like you guys know, I absolutely dearly love Hinata. He's my favorite character of all time, but the way that he is able to encourage Yachi is so amazing in this volume. She doesn't feel like she has any special qualities about her. She's never given her all 100% in the same way that Hinata does. Like, I was reading the conversation where she's like, so playing volleyball and winning in volleyball is up there on the same level as desire of eating food. I just had to laugh, because despite that they may be very different in how they view things, and like I said, Hina is 100% passionate, giving more than 100% in everything that he does, especially, well, we'll probably just say just in volleyball, since that's part of how their friendship begins, is Hinata needs help in English. She doesn't want to go to Zuki, so they come to Yachi, who eventually becomes their manager. But just everything leading up to that is such a, I'm hesitant to use the word beautiful, but I do feel when it comes to their friendship and how Hinata was able to just help Yachi have the confidence in herself to pursue being a volleyball manager, that he was able to help her stand firm that she wants to try this, and able to not confront her mom, but be able to go talk to her mom. Because the key thing that was so life-changing, I think, for Yachi is when Hinata says that Villager Bee is also really cool too, and that there's nothing wrong with being a Villager Bee, despite that people may say, well, they're not very important because they don't have a main main role in like a cast of characters. Obviously, Hinata shows her something very, very different. And so I love their friendship through the entire manga, even at the very end in those last few volumes. It is so wonderful. I love how they just stay close friends, that there's no romance between them. And there was one brief time when I read the manga that I almost caught myself shipping them, but I was like, no, I love that they don't have this romance and how they're just really good friends. And I feel like Yachi, I mean, it may sound like Hina is the one giving his all into Yachi to encourage her and help her grow as an individual, but the support that Yachi gives Hinata, especially in a very pivotal moment in the manga that made me cry, that was just like, I cannot handle this. Yachi was the one that stood by him and this other person that was involved. She was the one being like, what did he say? Is she like an old man? Because she's like, hey, you want me to toss some balls to you? And she was there. So she's also a very pivotal person in Hinata's life, and how she's always supporting him and being by his side as well, just as a friend, not as a girlfriend or anything romantic, but just as a friend who has seen him grow from the very beginning, how he has just grown as an individual, as a volleyball player. I love both of them so much. They are amazing little beings, and I'm so happy I was able to spotlight their friendship because it's beautiful and wonderful and one of my favorite friendships in this manga. For number 3, I think that this one works, but I really want to spotlight it, and that is the Eccentric Doctor of the Moonflower Kingdom. And I am going to specifically feature Kyoyo, who is our main heroine, as well as Shin, which I have to find a good picture of him. Here he is right here, and Shin right here. Kyoyo does talk about how they do view him more as, or she specifically views him as family, and he is her assistant as a doctor, but I love their friendship. I love their friendship so much. It was one of my favorite parts of this manga. It was just so enjoyable. The way that they are there for each other, encourage one another, just when there are some shenanigans that happen at the end of this volume, that he's like, we're gonna go do this. I've got your back. And she's like, okay, I've got your back. And they go do that thing. I love how Shin sees Kyoyo's heart for helping people, and how he's 100% there for her and encourages her and literally holds her up when she needs physically somebody to hold her up. With Kyoyo and her, we haven't seen much of her interactions with Shin per se, in the sense where I can describe maybe how I feel that she views him. But I think it's very telling that when this young man, he is the prince, I'm not going to go into details, but when he comes to Kyoyo, he needs a doctor, and he sees Shin. Shin is from a different race, and he's like, oh, you must be a servant in this household. And she's like, no, this is family. This is my assistant. So she holds him in such high regard. And the only reason I was a little iffy about featuring this is because I think maybe she views him more as a brother than, say, like a best friend, but I was like, they're not blood related, so I was like, I think I can use this for a platonic friendship. I'm still rolling with it, even if I probably should feature something else, but I really love the ending and just the fun shenanigans that they have. I can't talk about it, but let me show you an expression of him. Like, oh my goodness, I love his expressions. This was a very humorous story, and I'm very excited. Again, Shin and Kyoyo's friendship was one of my favorites. I'm hoping we see more of them. They're definitely on the same wavelength, which is always really fun when you see that, and especially when it comes to their expressions. I cannot wait to see more of that. I definitely want more romance in this manga, not between them, but in general, but the friendship was definitely everything, and very much appreciate seeing it. For number 4, I feel like this is a must, and it was sort of like, okay, which one do I actually feature? But I'm going to say Yona of the Dawn, and of course I had to feature Senha and Yona's relationship. I almost went with Gija and Yona because I really love their friendship as well, but Senha, he's a precious little cinnamon roll, and one of the things I deeply loved about Yona's character, and how really I feel like that was a very pivotal moment for me in absolutely just adoring her, is how she knew exactly what to say to Senha to help him see he has value as a human being, not just as a dragon, but as a living, breathing person. I will never get over that, and just numerous times I feel like Yona knows exactly what to say to Senha to encourage him and to remind him that they care for him, especially in this volume, which is a little bit emotional. Like, she tells him, I'm never leaving you. I'm going to come back for you no matter where you're at, whatever's happening. You are my friend. You are basically my family, and I'm here for you. And I just oh, I adore that so very, very much. And with Senha, I feel like he cares so very deeply, and I love how he is just standing by Yona's side. He may not say much, but you know with all of his heart, he will do anything for her and cares deeply for her, wants her to be happy, and do all that he can to protect her well-being. Their friendship is just so wonderful. I feel like when we have moments between just the two of them, yes, I definitely think there's some humorous moments that happen at times, but when it's just them two, I feel like it's just full of meaningful and impactful emotion between them. There's just no walls between them, and they're completely vulnerable with one another. Maybe Yona not the same way I think Senha is with Yona per se, but I still feel like that there's that vulnerability between them where they can be open, they can be frank in a kind way, and just really see one another. Of course, you know, it plays in with Senha's power, and so I really, really love that so much about their friendship. It's one of my favorites in this series. I think Gija, that I thought of Yoon, but I was going to say Gija and Yona, and then probably Yoon and Yona. There are so many great platonic friendships in this series. I mean, I feel like people could say at least 5 just from Yona of the Dawn alone, but I did want to feature Senha and Yona because those are some of my favorite parts in this series, especially when we're first meeting Senha and we see those conversations between him and Yona. It is so, so good. For number 5, I'm so excited to feature this one as well because I was like, yes, I forgot about this one, and so I'm going to be featuring I'm the Villainess, so I'm taming the final boss, and I am specifically going to say Aline, and I hope I'm saying her name right, and Isaac, who is one of my favorite male characters in this manga. Oh my goodness, I love Isaac. This is one time I can honestly say, and I do have a video review up if you like to check it out, but because I mentioned specifically in that video that I love Claude and Aline as a couple, but should it ever went where Isaac and Aline became a couple, I would have had no complaints. But they have a very platonic friendship, and I loved it. I was rereading a little bit of volume 2 actually, and seeing just how their friendship began and how these two are very, I don't know if hard-headed is the right word, but they're very determined people, and they're going to give more than their best. Like if 100% is required, you know they're going to give 125%, probably even more than that. And so I do appreciate how they really just push each other to go above even what they think they can do. Not in a way where it's like it's degrading or anything, but I feel like it's uplifting and encourages the other person to give even more, even if they're on the right track and they're doing great already. And just the shenanigans that unfold in this series and how Isaac, he has her back and she has his back, and she's like, you know, you could have had some fame in a certain situation. And he's like, no, I've got my friends, like it's good. I'm all good. So I really love their friendship so much. It is so good. It is so good. I don't want to say too much because I could see scenes in my head and I'm like, that's my favorite, and don't want to go into spoilers. But it is a fantastic non-romantic friendship that I have deeply enjoyed when reading this series. I know I have been encouraged to pick up the light novels, and I can imagine if I did, I'd be even more excited to see Isaac on page and Aline, because I love their banter that they have as well, and that they have this open friendship, and how there's surprises among the two of them when they say certain things and they're like, you know what, I'm just gonna roll with it, because they trust the other person, so they have no doubts that everything's gonna be okay and that person is gonna be there for them, and they know that they have the best intentions for the other person. For my honorable mention, I struggled with this one. I know technically I featured this last Top 5 Wednesday, but I had to say Play It Cool, guys. Is there any, well, these are all great examples, but I was gonna say, is there any better example of platonic friendships between great guys than Play It Cool, guys? The friendships in this are everything. I mean, there's so much we could say about all of them. We could say the individual friendships between one another are all 4 guys, or, you know, later on, all 5 guys. And I was gonna try and read volume 4 before this video. I was not able to actually read it before the month ended. I was really bummed. I had a really bad allergic reaction the last day. Was it Friday was the 31st? I had a really bad allergy reaction, and so I ended up going to bed at like 8 o'clock and then waking up the next day at like 8:30. I was like, oh my goodness, I felt like a new person with all that sleep. Anyway, I love this manga specifically for the friendships. There's a lot of relatability between all of the guys because they're such dorks, and I really love just how, with how clumsy they are and how dorky they are, that they just find harmony and they find encouragement. And especially with our, well, I was gonna say our main guy, he's not our main guy, but I was gonna to say with Hayate though, he just finds so much encouragement for his dorky little self. He's my favorite. I love him so much. He's so sweet. I just feel like there are so many great friendships in this and really enjoy it. I highly recommend it if you're looking for platonic friendships among a group of guys. This is it. It is perfection. It can do no wrong. I need to hurry up and read the 4th volume, and I did see that even though it's not yet on the market for the US, that in Japan there is a volume 5, and I was like, whew, my heart is okay now. I guess we're getting more of these guys and their dorky friendship. And that, my friends, wraps up my picks for platonic friendships. I hope that you enjoyed them. What are some platonic friendships that you know of that you absolutely love and adore in fiction? Again, I think romance is amazing. That makes up a large part of what I read, but I really do appreciate those friendships in fiction and just how powerful and impactful they can be, and just seeing it unfold on page can be absolutely beautiful. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and thank you so much for watching. Bye!